Seat President Cyril Ramaphosa and put the African National Congress out of power. And one such party is the Alliance for Transformation for All, ATA. It is actually the brainchild of the taxi industry in South Africa. I'm going to chat briefly to the presidential spokesperson, Mr. Sabelo Dumezweni. Mr. Dumezweni, very good evening to, or should I say a very good morning to you and welcome.
Morning and welcome to.
I'm looking at the leaderboard right now, and the ATA has scored 242 votes nationally. What is your impression of such a score?
Yes, it's still early hours, and if you look closely at the leaderboard, you would see that these results are mainly from the Western Cape, and if in a closer scrutiny would reveal that they are from the most affluent areas where we will ordinarily not have a base as a taxi industry. So we're still waiting from your votes from your townships and the rural areas where we will show the best that we can offer.
Okay, we've been seeing you campaigning in the past few months. We've been seeing you presenting your manifesto and party policy positions to your supporters and the masses. How can you ensure that you don't turn your back on South Africans after this vote? Because that's what most politicians do. After voting, they come back after 5 years.
Look, we have introduced a new and a fresh approach to South African politics. We have introduced a sector approach. We're not only a party of the taxi industry. We have students, your tertiary education students amongst our midst, and they are in our candidate lists. We have your traditional leaders. We have your hawkers associations. We have your small business associations, etc., etc. So those will be the guardians now of our values and principles as espoused in our manifesto.
Trailing with about 242 votes as at now, because so far the valid votes that have been cast are 146,975. I know it's still early stages, but just how confident are you that things will turn around for the better for ATA?
Yes, as I have already said, we are at about 0.1% so far, and these results, as I said, if you have a close look at them, they are mostly from the affluent areas. We have canvassed very well in your townships, in your rural areas, and we are very confident. Come the early hours of the morning tomorrow, we will be counted amongst the top in the leaderboard.
And come tomorrow morning, we'll definitely be in touch with you again and see whether that has come into fruition. But Mr. Dumezweni, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, that was the presidential spokesperson of one of the new parties, the Alliance for Transformation for All, which is a brainchild for the taxi industry. I'm going to move a little bit to the next table, which is the Democratic Alliance, and I'm going to chat to the former chief whip of the DA in the Gauteng legislature and is now a representative of the party here at the IEC, Mr. Mike Moriarty. A very good morning to you, Mr. Moriarty. Welcome.
Good morning, Sipiwe. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Now, just looking at the leaderboard, the Democratic Alliance is leading in the Western Cape and as well as Gauteng. What is your impression of such a development?
Well, it's nice to see a picture like this, but it's too soon to actually make the calls. I think that one has to see about 1 million votes getting counted. At the moment, they're sitting in about 150,000. So it's a long way to go. So I wouldn't make too much of these projections. It's interesting, but it's not indicative at this stage.
So how has voting been? I mean, looking at the fact that the DA has been embroiled in so many scandals, particularly in the Gauteng province, do you think that so many DA supporters and members turned a blind eye to these scandals?
You're going to have to be more explicit. I don't know what scandals you're talking about. The fact is that the DA has been at the forefront of fighting corruption, and I think we're going to get support on that ground. I think we also have found a lot of people liked our message of a job in every home. They like a party that is strong enough to look for an honest professional police service, to secure our borders, members and to fight corruption and to ensure better service delivery. And that's our track record, and we're proud of that, and we think it's reflective in what we're going to get in terms of the support in the final analysis.
From the results that have been given, I see that the DA has scored 25,906 votes in the Western Cape, and in Gauteng, the DA has scored, 3,010 votes. That's far ahead of the African National Congress, and nationally, it is trailing at 56,560. Just how confident are you that the DA will maintain this lead?
I'm confident of two things. Firstly, that we will grow from our current support nationally, and also that we will ensure that the ANC is kept below 50% in Gauteng and in the Northern Cape. And I suppose I can be confident of a third thing, and that we'll retain the Western Cape.
Mr. Mike Moret, I'm going to let you go while you monitor the scores. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Mr. Mike Moret. He's the Democratic Alliance representative here at the IEC, the Results Operations Centre in Pretoria. And one of the new players in the game is the Good Party. It is actually an offshoot of the Democratic Alliance. And I'm going to chat to Ntabiseng Lepoko. She is the national chairperson of the Good Party. Very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning to you too, Simpiwe. Thank you.
I know you've been fervently staring at the leaderboard, and I'm not sure, I couldn't quite get your facial expression while you were reading that scoreboard. So what's your impression of the latest?
I must say that we're very excited to see that as you're looking at the national scoreboard, we are sitting at number 6 so far. And that is quite promising. That shows that the South Africans, they went out there and they are actually partnering with us in getting on a project to fix SA.
I must say that you're doing quite well. I mean, as a new party which is hardly a year being formed, do you think that the kind of support that you've been receiving so far has anything to do with the de Lille factor, the fact that people are sympathetic to Ms. Patricia de Lille, or is it simply that people bought into your policy and your manifesto?
Okay, I wouldn't say that it's sympathy. Basically, I wouldn't know because I haven't had people expressing themselves. But what I know is that in terms of the leader that we have, she's very good when it comes to politics. She's an old politician, even though the party is new, and also based on her way of doing things in terms of being highly competent as a leader, and her service delivery has been phenomenal. So I think that people, they aspire after what Patricia de Lille can do for the country.
When you talk of people, do you also mean the DA members as well? Some of the DA members who defected from the DA and joined Good?
Well, I must say that we're very excited to have our members back and the members of the DA. So it's a very exciting time for us in a way to see that what the polls are saying at the moment. Yeah.
Are you confident that you'll be maintaining this lead?
We are very hopeful. What I can say is this: we are actually very grateful for what we're seeing currently, and that the people, they actually showing a little bit of confidence and maybe more later. So at the moment, we don't know what the outcome will be. So whichever seats we're going to get nationally or provincially, we will be happy with the outcome.
I saw Good Party engaged and embarked on a very vigorous campaign process. Are you going to maintain the kind of momentum moving forward, even after the elections? Because we've seen some of the political parties, most if not all these parties, have turned their backs on the people after the elections.
Well, we are actually, let me speak on behalf of the team, the Good team. Basically, our leader had an eye and an understanding the kind of leadership she wants to have. She went and chose people that are experienced and are highly competitive, with lots of energy and with an intent to make a difference in this country. So we understand that this is a long-term project, basically. We have the next 5 years to go out there and work with the people in South Africa and actually go out and listen to them in terms of what they really want. We're here to serve them. We basically are servants, and we want to be held accountable as our name is Good. Yeah.
Well, Ntabiseng, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm going to let you go for now. Well, that is the national chairperson of the Good Party, which it's safe to say an offshoot of the Democratic Alliance, Ms. Ntabiseng Lipoko. As I mentioned, she is the national chairperson, and the Good Party has scored 1,687. 1,687. That's after 173,611 votes have been counted nationally. All right. As I've mentioned, well, a very interesting comment that former President Jacob Zuma mentioned is that, he called out against the media for not having asked these parties what they will be doing for South Africans. Well, we've been seeing various manifestos and party policy positions from these parties, but one question that all these parties failed to answer is that how do they make sure that most of these South Africans, the voting age, do not just become voting fodder, but become equal stakeholders in the country's economy and the country's nation building. We are still yet to see whether that will play out as after the elections moving forward. But Arabile, it's now back to you.
Yes, and Pio, of course, highlighting some key scenarios then, key situations out, of course, with that voting panel. Just thought I'd touch on exactly how things are faring right now when it comes to that voting board. You did make mention of that, of course. Yes, this is specifically just in the Northern Cape, but we'll unpack exactly how things are faring nationally as well. And this is really just a scenario and what it looks like really when it comes to the National Assembly currently. This is with 3.5% of those votes being completed, of course, which means that only 818 of the 22,925 voting districts have thus far been voted, completed rather, when it comes to that counting process. 49.33% right now for the ANC. A key statistic for me and a key worry for me would be the voter turnout. Of course, we had around 73.48% or so for the 2014 general election there. If I just go to that, you will begin to actually see that. If I can get it going at some point, you'll see 73.48% when it comes to the voter turnout in that year, and we're hoping to get that figure going up a little bit more then when it comes to the 2019 election, but currently sitting at 61.52. Doing the maths with regards to this one is that if we have 27.6 million people registered to vote and only 73.48 in accordance with the last election, national and general election, do actually vote in South Africa, that means we'll have 20.4 million South Africans actually casting their vote. South Africa would have asked, of course, to want a whole lot more of you voting, certainly, and indeed making your marks and really saying to South Africa, this is the situation. Another key issue, of course, is the spoiled votes. At present, out of the 173,611 votes, 2,319 of those, or rather an added 2,319 have been spoiled, unfortunately, giving us the scenario we have at present. Of course, as I've mentioned, I'm joined in studio by my two guests, Mary Harris from Markana and Ranesh Dauraj, who's a political analyst, then joining us in our studio here at the Results Operations Center. Folks, it is